Welcome to a new series where we're exploring some of the most perplexing cold cases that remain unsolved to this day. From disappearances to mysterious deaths to unsolved slayings, these cases have baffled investigators and haunted families for years. We'll look at the evidence, explore different theories, and examine why justice has yet to be served. Henryk Siwiak, a Polish immigrant, moved to New York City in 2000 in search of better opportunities after losing his job in Poland. He hoped to support his family by finding work in the U.S. Siwiak settled in Far Rockaway, Queens, and worked various jobs, sending half of his earnings back home each month. On September 11, 2001, Siwiak was working at a construction site in Lower Manhattan when he witnessed one of the planes hitting the World Trade Center. Despite the chaos of the day, he secured a job for the evening, cleaning a Pathmark supermarket in Brooklyn. His landlady mistakenly directed him to the wrong location, sending him to Albany Avenue in Bedford-Stuyvesant instead of Albany Avenue in East Flatbush. Siwiak arrived in Bedford-Stuyvesant around 11 p.m., far from his intended destination. He walked through a neighborhood that was known for high crime rates, including drug activity and robberies. Dressed in a camouflage jacket and black army boots, he may have appeared suspicious to some residents. Tragically, Siwiak was shot several times, shortly before midnight while trying to find his way. He managed to ring the doorbell of a nearby brownstone, but no one answered. Regrettably, he succumbed to his injuries on the sidewalk. The investigation into Siwiak's case was severely hampered by the events of 9/11. The NYPD was overwhelmed, and the resources typically allocated to a homicide investigation were unavailable. The crime scene was processed by an evidence collection team that usually handled nonviolent crimes, and only a few detectives were available to canvass the area. Despite the circumstances, some evidence was collected, including shell casings. Siwiak's wallet contained $75, indicating that robbery was either not the motive or was botched. The police believe that language barriers may have prevented Siwiak from understanding any commands or threats made by his assailants. Theories about the motive behind Siwiak's shooting vary. Some speculate that his appearance and accent led to a fatal misunderstanding, possibly fueled by heightened tensions and suspicion following the attacks earlier that day. Others believe it was a case of mistaken identity or a botched robbery. Still others believe it was the work of someone who knew that the police would be overwhelmed and thus took the chance to opportunistically end Siwiak. In the years following the incident, no new leads or witnesses have emerged. The NYPD has continued to offer a reward for information, but as of now, the case remains unsolved. If you have any information or evidence in relation to this tragic case, please reach out to the NYPD directly. On August 31st, 1990, Adam Emery, along with his wife Elena and another couple, experienced a minor traffic accident in Warwick, Rhode Island. Their car, a 1985 Ford Thunderbird, was sideswiped by another vehicle while they were at a seafood stand. Angered and mistakenly believing that a red Ford LTD was responsible, Adam pursued the car driven by 20-year-old Jason Bass. The pursuit ended tragically when Adam forced Bass's car to stop. He confronted Bass with a military-style knife and during the confrontation, stabbed Bass in the chest, ending him. To add to the horror, subsequent investigations revealed that Bass's car was not the one that had hit Adam's vehicle. Emery claimed he acted in self-defense, but the evidence did not support this assertion. He was arrested and charged with the second-degree slaying of Adam Bass. The legal proceedings dragged on for more than 2 years. During this time, Emery was released on bail after spending 8 months in custody. He rejected a plea deal for voluntary manslaughter that would have resulted in a lighter sentence, maintaining his innocence. On November 10, 1993, Adam Emery was convicted and faced a potential 25-year prison sentence. However, he was allowed to remain free on bail pending formal sentencing, which seems to me to be a questionable idea in cases involving highly dangerous convicted felons. That same evening, Adam and his wife Elena vanished. They left the courthouse, made purchases at a sporting goods store, and were last seen eating at a Burger King. Hours later, their car was found abandoned on the Claiborne Pell Newport Bridge, with its engine running and personal items inside, including a note suggesting they intended to voluntarily end themselves. Despite an extensive search, only Elena's skull was found in the Narragansett Bay months later. Elena's remains were identified through dental records, but the cause of her death could not be determined due to the condition of the remains. This discovery led to speculation that Adam had staged his own death. The circumstances surrounding Elena's death remain mysterious, with some believing she jumped from the bridge while Adam escaped. Others speculate that Adam used her to escape, and then slew her to add credibility to the story that they both ended themselves. Multiple sightings of Adam were reported in the years following his disappearance, including in states like Florida and countries such as Italy, where he had family connections. The FBI has kept the case open, considering Adam Emery a fugitive. In 2004, he was declared legally dead, but authorities have continued to follow leads. To this day, the FBI believes there is a significant possibility that Adam Emery is alive, potentially living at home or abroad under an assumed identity. Notably, the FBI added him to their 10 most wanted fugitives in 2010, despite him being legally deceased. If he's residing in the United States, the FBI believes that he is presently residing in Florida. If he's residing abroad, there have been numerous sightings of him in both France and Italy, and these sightings are believed to be credible by the FBI. Hey everyone, it's your boy Jimmy here with a little bit of self-promotion. If you're enjoying the chill vibes, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to stay updated. Also, as always, don't forget to share the love with your friends and family. Frauke Liebs, a 21-year-old nursing student, vanished under mysterious circumstances on June 20th, 2006, in Paderborn, Germany. Her case remains one of the most disturbing unsolved slayings in recent German history. On the night of her disappearance, Liebs was at an Irish pub called the Old Triangle in Paderborn, watching a FIFA World Cup match between England and Sweden with friends. She had borrowed a friend's phone battery as hers was running low, but returned it before leaving the pub around 11 p.m. Given that she only had about €5 with her, it's believed she intended to walk the short 2 miles to her apartment. At around 1 a.m., her housemate, Chris, received a text message from her phone stating she would be home later. This message was sent from Neheim, a small city approximately 35 kilometers away from Paderborn. The following day, Frauke failed to appear at work, and her mother reported her missing immediately, given that this was entirely out of character for her. In the days following her disappearance, she made several phone calls to her housemate and family. These calls were traced to various industrial areas in Paderborn. In these conversations, she repeatedly assured them she would return home soon, but provided no clear information about her whereabouts or situation. The last call occurred on June 27th, during which she spoke briefly with her sister. When asked if she was being held against her will, she initially answered yes, faintly, but quickly followed with a loud no. On October 4th, 2006, a hunter discovered Lieb's body in a forested area near Lichtenau, about 25 miles from where she was last seen. Her body was found still dressed in the clothes she had worn on the night she disappeared. However, her mobile phone, handbag, wallet, and wristwatch were missing. Due to the advanced state of decomposition, the cause and exact time of death could not be determined, though it was determined that this was not a recent event. The investigation into Frauke's disappearance and death involved extensive police work. Over 900 individuals connected to Frauke were questioned, and 5 initial suspects were identified. However, all were eventually cleared after providing convincing alibis. The police hypothesized that she had been held captive in the Neheim area, where the text on the night of her disappearance originated from. The authorities speculated that the phone calls made from different locations in Paderborn were intended to mislead the investigation. Despite the efforts, no definitive motive or perpetrator was identified. The case received significant media attention in Germany. Despite the exposure and a reward offered for information leading to the resolution of the case, her slaying remains unsolved. Even years later, the case continues to draw public interest and efforts to solve it persist. In November 2022, police conducted searches based on an anonymous tip, but found no new evidence. The case is still open, and authorities hope that new information might eventually come to light, bringing closure to her family and friends. Joseph Baun Elwell was a prominent figure in early 20th century New York, known for his mastery of the card game bridge. Born on February 24, 1873, in Cranford, New Jersey, Elwell grew up in a comfortable family setting. As a young man, he pursued a career in sales, but eventually found his true passion in the world of bridge, a card game that was rapidly gaining popularity among the elite. Elwell's skill at the game earned him recognition as one of the foremost experts in the United States. He authored several books on bridge, including Elwell on Bridge and Advanced Bridge, which were widely regarded as definitive guides and became a sought-after figure in New York's high society. Despite his professional success, Elwell's personal life was tumultuous. He had a reputation as a womanizer, which led to a strained marriage that ended in separation. On the morning of June 11, 1920, Elwell was found severely wounded in his Manhattan home. Elwell was last seen alive by a milkman around 6:30 a.m. when he collected his mail and newspaper. By 9 a.m., his housekeeper, Marie Larson, discovered him slumped in a chair in his living room, still in his pajamas, with a gunshot wound to his forehead. His toupee and dentures were missing, adding an odd touch to the scene. Despite the severity of his injury, Elwell was initially still alive but succumbed to his wounds shortly thereafter without regaining consciousness. The case was immediately sensationalized by the press, partly due to the bizarre circumstances surrounding it. The room where Elwell was found was locked from the inside, and there were no signs of forced entry. The police discovered a .45 caliber bullet on the floor, but the weapon itself was never found. Additionally, a cigar of a brand different from Elwell's usual choice was found in the room, suggesting he might have had a visitor shortly before the incident. Despite extensive investigations, the case went cold. The police interviewed hundreds of people, including Elwell's numerous romantic entanglements and business associates, but no definitive leads emerged. Theories ranged from a botched robbery to a crime of passion, but the lack of concrete evidence meant that speculation ran wild. Some suggested that Elwell's killer might have been someone close to him, perhaps even someone he knew well enough to let into his home early in the morning. The mystery deepened with time as various confessions and claims surfaced, only to be debunked later. One man confessed to the crime a year later, but his confession was dismissed as the ramblings of a mentally unstable individual. Jenny Lo Chang, a 19-year-old student at San Francisco State University, disappeared on the evening of September 11, 1977. She left her dormitory around 6 p.m., heading to a study session in the J. Paul Leonard Library. When her roommate noticed her absence the following morning, she reported it to the authorities. Jenny's body was discovered a few hours later in a locked reading room on the library's 4th floor. The condition of the room and her body indicated a violent struggle had taken place. Over 200 staff members and 1,200 faculty members had access to keys and coded cards that could unlock the room where she was found, complicating the investigation. The only individuals questioned were a campus security guard and a faculty member. Given the amount of potential individuals involved, this seems to me to be a woefully incomplete investigation. One popular theory suggests the involvement of the notorious Zodiac killer, given the geographical and chronological proximity of his activities. However, no substantial evidence supports this theory. Another theory posits the involvement of Rodney Alcala, a convicted serial killer around the same period. This theory also lacks concrete evidence, but has gained traction due to the similarities in the modus operandi. The investigation into Jenny's demise was fraught with challenges. Advanced decomposition of her body hampered forensic analysis, making it difficult to establish a precise cause of her passing. The scene itself, described as chaotic with broken furniture and scattered personal items, suggested a violent confrontation. The locked state of the room upon discovery led investigators to conclude that Jenny must have entered with someone she trusted who had access to a key to the room. Despite numerous efforts, the case has long gone cold, with few meaningful leads ever generated. Chandra Levy, a 24-year-old intern at the Federal Bureau of Prisons, vanished in Washington, D.C. on May 1, 2001. Her disappearance captivated national attention, intertwining politics and media frenzy due to her affair with Congressman Gary Condit. Chandra was last seen alive at her apartment complex in DuPont Circle. Neighbors reported hearing a scream on the night of her disappearance, and subsequent investigation revealed significant delays in police response and errors in handling evidence. Surveillance footage that could have provided crucial leads was overwritten before being reviewed by investigators. The affair with Congressman Condit became a central focus of the investigation. Condit initially denied the relationship, but later admitted to it during police questioning. Despite extensive media speculation and intense scrutiny, Condit was never formally charged or identified as a suspect in her disappearance. The affair, however, significantly impacted his political career, leading to his loss in the Democratic primary for his congressional seat in 2002. Chandra's remains were discovered a year later in Rock Creek Park by a jogger. The skeletal remains, scattered along a steep slope, provided little conclusive evidence about the cause of her demise. Key items found at the scene included a sports bra, leggings, and a Walkman. Due to the decomposition, forensic experts could not determine a specific cause, though damage to her hyoid bone suggested possible strangulation. In 2009, Ingmar Guandike, already serving time for attacking 2 other women in Rock Creek Park, was charged with Chandra's case. He was convicted in 2010 based primarily on the testimony of a jailhouse informant who later recanted. The lack of direct evidence and subsequent revelations about witness credibility led to the overturning of his conviction in 2015. By 2016, prosecutors dropped all charges, and Guandike faced deportation to El Salvador for his other confirmed crimes. Despite multiple attempts to bring closure over the years, the true story behind Chandra's disappearance and fate remains a mystery. Heidi Plank, a 39-year-old mother, mysteriously vanished in Los Angeles on October 17, 2021. Plank was last seen leaving her son's football game in Downey, California. Her ex-husband, Jim Wayne, became concerned when she failed to pick up their son 3 days later, as had been scheduled, leading him to report her missing on October 20, 2021. The case took a strange turn when Plank's dog, Seven, was found wandering on the 28th floor of a high-rise apartment complex in downtown Los Angeles, just hours after she left the football game. Surveillance footage captured her entering the building, but she was never seen leaving. Plank had no known connection to the building, further deepening the mystery. Authorities searched the building but found no immediate signs of her whereabouts. However, forensic evidence discovered inside the building later led police to suspect that she may have died there. One theory circulating is that Plank attended a drug-fueled party in the building on the night she disappeared. Witnesses suggested that she may have suffered a fatal overdose during the event, and there is speculation that partygoers may have disposed of her body through the building's trash chute. This theory gained traction when authorities conducted an extensive search at the Chiquita Canyon landfill, where garbage from the building was dumped. However, no human remains were ever recovered, and this theory remains speculative. Another aspect complicating the case is Plank's professional life. She worked as a controller for Camden Capital Partners, a firm under investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission, more commonly known as the SEC, for financial fraud. Her boss, Jason Sugarman, was implicated in a $43 million fraud scheme, and some believe that her disappearance may be tied to her knowledge of illegal activities at the company. Just days after Plank was last seen, Wayne received a phone call asking him about Sugarman, heightening suspicion that her professional connections might have played a role in her vanishing. However, at present, this remains entirely speculative, and there's nothing conclusive to tie her activities at Camden Capital Partners to her disappearance. Although police have continued to pursue leads, including reviewing surveillance footage and conducting searches, the case remains unsolved. Plank's remains have never been found, and her family continues to seek closure nearly 3 years after her disappearance. On September 17, 1898, in Bucksport, Maine, Sarah Ware, a 52-year-old woman, disappeared while walking home from a friend's house. Her body was discovered 2 weeks later in a field, significantly decomposed. A raincoat was found beneath her head, possibly indicating an attempt to conceal her remains. The investigation began with local authorities, but it quickly became apparent they needed outside help. Detectives from nearby cities were brought in, funded by the community. They raised $500 after initial funds for the investigation mysteriously dried up. The investigation led to William Trewargy, who was suspected of owing Ware money. The case became complicated when Joe Fogg Jr. claimed he was paid by Trewargy to dispose of Ware's body. However, he later recanted his statement, alleging he was coerced. The evidence, including a tarp and a hammer, went missing, and many key individuals involved in the investigation passed away under questionable circumstances. Despite these challenges, Trewargy was eventually brought to trial. The local courts struggled with the case, citing community ties that made an impartial trial difficult. It ultimately reached the Hancock County Supreme Court, but with witnesses dead or recanting and evidence lost, Trewargy was acquitted. Sarah Ware's remains were treated with unusual carelessness. Her body was buried in a pauper's grave, where an artificial lake was subsequently created. It is uncertain if her body was moved or if it lies beneath the lake's waters. A marker in Oak Hill Cemetery in Bucksport commemorates her, but only her head rests there, near her former husband's family plot. Numerous theories and ghost stories surround Sarah Ware's demise. Some suggest she haunts the shores of Silver Lake, seeking justice. The lack of concrete evidence and the mystery of her final resting place add to the lore. The case remains officially unsolved, with Trewargy often speculated to have escaped justice. On October 11, 2001, Thomas C. Wales, a federal prosecutor based in Seattle, Washington, was targeted. As he worked on his computer in the basement of his home, a perpetrator fired several shots through a window, hitting him. Despite efforts to save him, He passed away the following day. Thomas C. Wales had a distinguished career. Born in 1952, he grew up in Southborough, Massachusetts, and was an alumnus of Harvard and Hofstra Law School. In 1983, he became an assistant U.S. attorney in Seattle, specializing in fraud prosecutions. Beyond his professional life, he was deeply involved in civic activities, including serving as president of a local gun safety group. The investigation into this incident has been extensive, but fraught with challenges. Initial evidence pointed to a Makarov pistol with a replacement barrel as the weapon used. This type of pistol left distinctive marks on the bullets, leading the FBI to a painstaking search for the barrel's origins. Approximately 2,600 such barrels were sold, complicating the investigation. One primary suspect emerged early in the investigation, an airline pilot from Bellevue who had been prosecuted by Wales. This individual was known to have a strong interest in firearms and had previously clashed with Wales over his gun control advocacy. Although the FBI conducted thorough searches of the pilot's residence, including seizing 27 boxes of potential evidence, no charges were brought against him. No charges were ever brought against the pilot. In 2018, the FBI suggested that Wales might have been targeted by a professional hit orchestrated by a small group. This theory added a new layer of complexity, suggesting a more elaborate conspiracy rather than a lone perpetrator. Despite these leads, the case remains unresolved, with the FBI continuing to seek public assistance and offering a substantial reward for information. The FBI has recently increased the reward for information, leading to an arrest to $2.5 million, reflecting the high priority still placed on this case. On September 14, 2007, 14-year-old Andrew Gosden from Doncaster, South Yorkshire, disappeared. Andrew Gosden was a highly intelligent and quiet teenager who loved metal and rock music. On the morning of his disappearance, he left home in his school uniform, but returned shortly after his parents left for work. He changed into casual clothes, specifically a black Slipknot t-shirt and black jeans, packed his wallet, keys, and a PlayStation Portable, and headed to Doncaster railway station. At the station, he withdrew £200 from his bank account and bought a one-way ticket to London, declining a return ticket. Andrew was last seen on CCTV arriving at King's Cross Station in London at 11:20 a.m. and exiting the station at 11:25 a.m. This was the last confirmed sighting of him. The initial investigation revealed no signs of premeditation. He had not taken his passport or packed any additional clothes. That evening, when Andrew's parents discovered he was not at home, they initially believed he was with friends. By 7 p.m., they contacted the police. Despite intensive searches and widespread media coverage, no further sightings were reported. One popular theory suggests Andrew traveled to London to attend a concert by the band 30 Seconds to Mars. This is supported by a photo from the concert, although the person in the image cannot be conclusively identified as Andrew. Another theory posits that Andrew may have been meeting someone he had contacted online. This theory aligns with his interest in music and technology, but lacks substantial evidence. Andrew's father suggested that his son might have visited London for the Tutankhamun exhibition at the British Museum, reflecting Andrew's academic interests. There's also a possibility that Andrew went to London seeking work experience opportunities, similar to what his sister did when she was his age. In December 2021, South Yorkshire police arrested 2 men on suspicion of kidnapping and human trafficking in connection with Andrew's disappearance. The men were later released under investigation, but no new substantial leads emerged from this inquiry, and in September 2023, their names were cleared in relation to this incident. Despite extensive investigations and public appeals, Andrew's whereabouts remain unknown. His family continues to seek answers and maintain hope for his safe return. The case remains open, with police encouraging anyone with information to come forward. If you like this, check out my channel for content ranging from unsolved mysteries to true crime to the occult to urban legends and more. There's something there for everyone. Also, if you want to take it to the next level, sign up for the YouTube membership or the Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Shout out to my patrons Iced Mocha, Kurt the Squirt, Monoxide Wendigo, Jeffer Metcalf, Z-Volts, Courtney Hammett, Out of Gray's Mind, Cap, Dionysus, Silba Rose, Wade Brims, Franz Tech, Unknown Delusions, Faye, Jack Russell, Boomslang, Spookiest Becky, Vespertine, Metanova, Will Roan, Crab Nebula, and Blasphemous.